But yeah, why don't we start out? Jake, you want to take us into that? Your thoughts?
Just big time. It was a great episode. A lot was revealed, and like I said, I'm just excited to see what comes next. So, excellent episode, and the whole thing. I'm gonna say it probably every single week. I'm gonna keep saying it. Morbius and Loki are they're perfect, man. They're just spot on. So happy to see them interacting.
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting right into this whole series. Even on episode 2, there's already a lot dropped, and I think we're kind of expecting it because when you're dealing with kind of like a multiverse topic, you're gonna have to explain a lot super fast. And I think with only 6 episodes, it's picking up very quickly. And so I really enjoyed it so far, and I think you learned a lot in this episode just by itself. And so I'm like, if we're already this far on the second episode, like I have no clue how crazy things are going to get in the next 4. So yeah, I thought it was super good, and yeah, it's more Mobius and Loki just stealing it again throughout the episode, and I think their dynamic shines out in a lot of it. So
I mean, I think this was better than episode 1. Even I think it's getting better and better. I was even telling Nick because he's not caught up on Loki. Otherwise, he would be right here with us doing the review as well. But he watched both WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier. Even already, I think it is kind of a little bit early to say this, but I like it even more than those other 2 shows so far.
yeah,
and this is also coming from a person who has never been super invested in Loki's character. It's just everything. It's the acting that I think is so fantastic. I also just like really love the cinematography, and I know I kind of said something bad about like that one desert scene, but that was like literally my only gripe, and that lasted for just a few seconds. But like the ongoing color scheme that they have, I think is like really cool, and it's kind of like a warmer tone, and also a little bit futuristic. I'm just digging it, man. And the mystery. Oh, and I can't forget, but the music is really good in this show as well. I mean, it builds the suspense perfectly, and then you like mix in the humor here and there. It's really good so far. Really loving this series.
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's a perfect blend of everything. I think they're doing a really good job, and for us going into the show, I think a big part of it is how it's going to connect with what's going to be happening going forward. Because I think leading up to, multiverse of madness is kind of what we're all waiting for. Like that's probably going to be the big game changer in the universe.
Yeah.
And so leading up to it, I didn't think this show could have a big impact on it, but now I'm like, this could be like a very big deal when it comes to like a multiverse and just how it works out. And I think this show is going to have more pull to it than the other 2, and I think it already has had more like played more of a role in the future of this universe than WandaVision or Falcon Winter Soldier. And so and just in 2 episodes, like it's crazy what they've done with it already. So I'm super excited to see what they do, and I think the show's just production is super good, and like the Easter eggs in this I think are crazier than any Easter eggs so far in like the past 2 shows we've had. So yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I think for me, like the thing with it is that I feel like it's kind of a mixture, honestly, between WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, because what I've been through this. I mean, I nerd out on it, so I go and I find everybody on YouTube, and I'll theorize with them and whatever. And theorizing was like a huge part of WandaVision, and then like the buddy cop aspect is a huge part like, you know, the buddy cop, like two guys getting together is like a huge part of Falcon Winter Soldier. And so this is like just like a combination of both those shows where Falcon Winter Soldier didn't really give us too many Easter eggs. It wasn't like you couldn't really theorize about it too much. But this show is like mind blowing, like WandaVision, but it also gives us like that humor and stuff that comes with Falcon Winter Soldier. So it's honestly like the best of both worlds for me.
What stood out to you guys? We'll start with Jake. Like just like from the very beginning, the opening sequences for this story, and kind of pushing things forward from where we left off with last week. Anything that just like really caught your attention that you wanted to touch on?
From the beginning, it was super interesting to see. I know it's like something really minuscule and small, but Miss Minutes like popping up, you know, like she or it, you know, the clock is like was bouncing around the desk. It was like a hologram, but it's like a recording. There's like this whole weird thing going on with Miss Minutes, which is really interesting. Um, but dude, I mean, the whole thing was crazy. Just hearing Loki and like how it was explained that if it gets past that certain red line when it's a Nexus event, that they can't even go back and erase it. So that was really interesting. Obviously, that's going to play into like the later part of this episode and my theory about exactly what's going on and what this variant Loki is doing. But um, big thing for me was Loki too. Was like it's 2012 Loki. He's swindling his way out of things, but then he also is aware of like what's come. And so like I feel like there's like an inner conflict in Loki, and we're gonna see that play out through the series, where he wants to be good, but he wants to have his own agenda. And we even saw him kind of point out that, you know, when he talked to the other variant about his plan, how he still wants to be the guy that's ruling and says, I need a good lieutenant. And that really kind of made the other variant angry. And I can explain that later because I have a feeling I know where this variant came from and what their plan is. But uh, for me, I think it's going to just be saying Loki and like his inner struggle with being good and then being selfish for himself. So we'll see.
Anything you wanted to mention? Maybe about
Um,
the Renaissance scene in particular?
it kind of gets more into the plot of the whole episode, but I think it's kind of just reaffirming like what's going on and like kind of the plan of this other Loki. And so we kind of go into why they've been doing like ambushes like this for so long, and it kind of comes into fruition later. But I think it was just a good um, point for us to remember, and then it also gave Loki a good stage to kind of be himself and be Mister This.
Like as far as where they're taking Loki in this episode, um, how did you feel like the progression went with his character, and also anything else that stood out with him and Mobius and like their work relationship a little bit more here?
It's been really interesting to see because it's not just um, them doing stuff, it's also them like getting down into like spiritual talk or like universal talk about like what things are free will, stuff like that. I mean, we see that in the middle of the episode. They talk to each other, which is really interesting about very deep things, and give their own opinion about it, and then kind of have like a back and forth, which is really interesting. But also, you know, I think I'm gonna give the upper hand to Owen Wilson because Loki said he said once in this episode, he says, the fact that you think you can manipulate me is funny, like it's a joke. But that's basically all he's doing to Loki. He keeps like promising him certain things, telling him to keep his focus. Like when he's like, oh, I can get a time, I can talk to the timekeepers or whatever, and he's like, yeah, keep that focus, and he keeps messing
Yeah.
with him. And you know, I think that Mobius is like way ahead of Loki just because he's watched Loki so many times, like he's studied Loki. So I think it's a great match for them to see, especially like right now, because the only other person that could have really known Loki that well was Thor. And we kind of saw that in Thor Ragnarok when he's like, dude, like I know you're like just projecting yourself right now, or whatever the technical term that Loki uses, duplicating.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so seeing him be able to kind of control the situation has been really interesting. So I'm thinking, and I honestly, I think that's probably the end of it. I think episode 2. I don't know if Mobius is going to be he's going to do that again, because Loki's on his own now. I mean, it's all Loki's game at this point, because no, spoiler, but he got away from the TVA, so he's got the upper hand now. So we'll see what happens, but it's been really interesting to see their relationship.
Yeah, I'll throw it over to Ethan, but you had mentioned kind of like about more of their deeper conversations, and I wanted to talk to you guys about that too, because I think that's a really interesting thing with these Marvel shows. We had it with both Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision. These Marvel shows so far have touched on these pretty deep subjects like mental health and social justice, um, like prejudice, stuff like that. Um, things that we see and experience in today's world. And so I'm interested in. I know again we're only 2 episodes in, but interested in hearing what you guys' thoughts are as far as like some heavy subjects that Loki is going to focus on.
If I were to guess or anything like that, it'd probably be just the effect that something like time has on events and stuff like that, and just the state of things in general and how these changes affect it so much. And so, but it's always hard to tell, and they always have some sort of idea of what they're trying to not push, but just what they're trying to give a perspective on. And so I think it'll be interesting to see what they have in mind.
Yeah, so far in the first 2 episodes, things that I've kind of seen, um, what I feel like they're starting to touch on is these ideas about, um, I think identity and like maybe really like not liking things about your own personality, stuff like that we see with Loki, and then also, um, when it comes to life choices, not being happy with the choices that you make in life. I feel like they definitely touched on that with episode 1. At first, I wasn't sure if I believed Loki when he said I don't like killing people and this and that, um, but I actually, after you watch it and after the second time watching it too, I was like, yeah, he was being genuine, and he even called himself out towards the end, and he's like, um, a lot of this that the image that I put up is basically a facade. It's so that other people will fear me, even though it's coming from what he said is actually a weak person. So I think it's kind of those ideas about who you are and the choices that you make in life and kind of things that you have to live with, but also maybe going forward making better decisions that you're happier with, and maybe like this can tie into a redemption arc for him. That's kind of my thoughts. Jake, what do you think?
That was really awesome, Dom. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I'm kind of going on the same lines. They could do a couple of things, and I think they've been hinting at a couple of things. I'll go with the most general thing first. I won't take up too much time. Most general thing first
From
is uh, power corrupts, absolutely, or whatever the phrase is, with government, or too much power is going to cause an issue. I mean, we saw that in Falcon Winter Soldier. The government wanted to control everyone. It's TVA. They want to control everyone. So that's the first thing that I think they always
Yeah.
touch on. It's not anything new. But then free will, like what you were talking about, like that's a really crazy concept that they're trying to discuss right now. It's probably going to hit a lot of different people a lot of different ways. Um, but the ability to choose your way and then have regret and then dealing with regret from your choices is something that they might be touching on.
When you're talking kind of like about the power and corrupting, um that makes me think a little bit about like how there's speculation, especially with the timekeepers, and I feel like that could be uh, kind of something that they really capitalize on here with uh, like them being corrupt. You know what I mean? And like abusing their power and just like the way that we perceive how everything's being ran and the sacred timeline. You know what I mean?
And to that note too, even in the beginning of episode 2, Loki even says, "Yeah, I've been watching the TVA propaganda because of like, have you seen the videos of this stuff?" So he already kind of has an idea that it's going to be corrupt. Me personally, I don't even know if the timekeepers exist, and we can touch on that later. But
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, and I think it might. I'm on Kang Gang, so it could just be Kang. Or honestly, what's her name? Renslayer, Art, whatever her name is.
Yeah,
The
yeah, I think
judge.
it's translated.
So even Renslayer might just be one of those people that is helping the upper power, which could be the other analyst that she mentioned before, which is possibly Kang. And then, I just something's going on with the TVA for sure.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the timeline bombings. There was kind of like an Easter egg within these because and I'm gonna watch it again, but I took note of this and doing some research. You see um like the names of different planets that were taken out.
I got a
And
list.
oh yeah, hey, please, guy.
Yeah,
I know one was Titan, so that was really
Yeah,
interesting. But
and
yeah,
that's coming
throw it
up.
out there, man.
They're showing that too.
but yeah.
BTW.
So there's
Okay. Yeah,
um,
Ethan, throw that out there, and then Jake,
Yeah.
follow up.
the ones that I saw. There's Vormir. There's Asgard. There's Ego, which I thought was pretty sick.
Very
New
weird.
York. New York's always going to be in there. Like no shot. It's not. There's a clip in the trailer of just New York like devastated, like a nuke had gone off. So makes more sense now. And there was like another shot that looked like they were on Vormir. So that makes more sense now. Hala, which is like the Kree homeworld, I think that was in Captain Marvel, and then Xandar. So I think that's it. I was gonna pull it up and confirm that I got everything, but I think that's mainly it. And those are just some like big plans. Like I never thought we'd be talking about Ego again.
Yeah.
Like no shot. And then there's just some other places that I think were probably had something to do with just the MCU in general, like especially with like Far From Home and all that. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some places like there's a lot of places in Europe that were in there. But yeah, I think it's pretty crazy just all the different stuff going on. But
Well, it goes back to your point towards the beginning of our review this evening, Ethan, that you were saying how this show, Loki in particular, as opposed to Wanda and Falcon, like Marvel can use this show and probably is using it even more to push forward the next phase in the MCU and set up so many more things that we're going to see in our new upcoming shows and movies. And
yeah,
I think it's stuff like this too that's like they're doing it, and it can be subtly, but for sure, like it. I mean, yeah, we don't want to read too much into it, but it's hard to imagine this in particular not having like meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
But Jake, you wanted to follow up?
Yeah, I'll follow with you, and I'll touch on what Ethan said as well. So I'm pretty sure that the head writers for this series, or the head writer for this series, is also the head writer for, or one of the writers for, Multiverse of Madness. So I think this is a catapult right now. Like they're shooting it off into the stars right now. Like these guys, they know what they're doing. They have a plan. It's all set up. So he talked about that a little bit. I watched the interview with him the other day, and so that's really interesting. I think they're definitely setting up, which is weird because I kind of figured that they would, or I thought they said that if you watch these shows, like these shows aren't going to be so impactful just because they didn't want to force people to get Disney Plus
Yeah,
to watch these series.
yeah, for sure.
But, dude, this is it, man. Like, if nothing else, I mean, Loki is this is what's happening. He's gonna this is gonna be the mainstay of how Phase 4 started in the next couple phases. But what Ethan said was Vormir, and I thought that was really interesting. I've heard that theory a couple of times as well. But when you look at the timestamps on those dates that she sent the bombs back to, it's 1984 or something
Yeah.
on Titan. So that, and see how it was purple and asteroids were coming down and planets were clashing into the planet. I'm thinking that might be Titan instead of Vormir. Although I get where you're coming from with the lake scene, but then there's also kind of, I feel like I saw,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I rewatched the commercials back, and there's some tents and stuff, so there's got to be something happening on there. And I don't remember Vormir really having any sort of habitat or people living there or anything like that. And it's purple, so I'm thinking it might be Titan. I don't know when that's going to show up. I had a feeling that they might lead us right from the end, and he walks through that doorway, and that's Titan, and she's going to explain this is what they want to do. The TVA wants people to die like this all the time, and there's going to be collapses in the universe, and I think that it's going to be like a moat where she tries to pull Loki onto her side.
We'll for sure look forward to seeing what comes of that. Maybe we'll do some more speculation on our next review, or upcoming reviews on where they could take things with those planets and those dates, different timelines like that. So why don't we kind of go towards the conclusion of things? So they finally track down the variant, the Loki variant, and she's been hiding, I believe, in different apocalypses, is what he says, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Loki he really helps track where she is, and they head out there. Also, can't forget that salad scene. I thought was really, really funny. I thought it was great.
Can I point something out too? And that salad
Yeah,
scene was
absolutely.
it was one of the funniest Easter eggs that I only caught when I watched it back the second time. You know how he goes and grabs that juice box? It's from the guy that he told he was gonna gut like a fish. And
Oh,
so,
really?
rewatching, he's like, "You," and he gets shocked that he's there, and he's like, "Yeah, excuse me," and he's all polite and takes his juice box, but it's the same guy, and I cracked up. I was like, "This
Gotcha.
freaking guy can't
Casey,
escape
right?
Loki." Yes, Casey. Yeah, I was dying. Anyway,
That's
sorry.
funny.
I thought that was so
Yeah.
funny.
No, that was great. So they track down the variant, and of course, Loki has to go with the other officer because she doesn't trust him. Ethan, why don't you kind of break this down for us a little bit?
Yeah, so we kind of throughout this episode we kind of got this power, I guess, that this Loki uses, which is kind of yoinking bodies from people and putting their subconscious into them. Um, and there's actually a pretty funny line by our Loki at one point, saying how it's kind of cowardly, to do that. And so I think it kind of just goes to prove the fact that he could be doing this, but he just never did. That's kind of main power that we saw throughout this, and it seems like the Minutemen they were aware of this ability, and so they're kind of going throughout this store because this store is apocalyptic because there's a hurricane that's just going to wipe everyone out in there, and so Loki can kind of chill in there and just live their life for a bit before it gets destroyed. And I guess this Loki has the ability to use those portal things that the Minutemen do, because otherwise, how else would they be moving in and out of these apocalypse situations? So eventually, they're questioning this guy who they're it might be the Loki they need, and what do you know it was? And so it's kind of just funny seeing all these interactions and stuff.
It was really funny. The first thought that I had was this guy's shopping for plants right now. Like that's Loki. Like he's gonna die in like 10 minutes. Like this guy, that's Loki. Like who shops for a plant when there's a massive
Yeah.
fire, right? But it was super interesting. What we know from Marvel Comics is that they tend to blend some people together, like with Hela. It was another character as well. I think it was actually
Hmm.
Enchantress and Hela that they wanted to combine too. So they kind of already used this little scheme. I could see them using that,
Yeah,
but
I heard about that too because yeah, like I mentioned to Ethan and Jake before the show, I do think that it's a possibility that um maybe this Loki variant isn't like full Loki. Maybe it's actually Enchantress, or I was thinking similarly to Hela. Maybe it's a combination of like Enchantress and the character of Lady Loki, something like that.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. So I'm thinking that it's probably a little mixture. I'm assuming they're gonna call her Lady Loki just based on the fact that they say it's a variant. Yeah, there she is in all her glory. Look at her. Um, so for me, it's probably a combination, but I'm leaning towards Lady Loki because they said it's a Loki variant. Um, she's definitely before Loki. She is she's probably from the timeline that was messed up before, and she has her own army, and was rising to power, and then the TVA came and messed it all up. So when Loki approaches her and says, when she's Randy and she says, "Call me Randy," he's like, "Let me break down this plan. I want to overthrow the TVA and take over the TVA." And what she's thinking is what Loki said in episode 1, which is, "I want to burn this place to the ground. Like, I want to go
Yeah.
back to my own home world," which is probably Battle Earth or Battle World. I think that's what it's called, which is directly related to Secret Wars, which we
yeah,
know is
Battle
coming up.
World.
Yeah, so we know that's coming up. So she probably is thinking, because she ruled Battle World, Lady Loki. So she wants to get rid of these guys because she wants to go back to her own time. Um, and she doesn't want to overthrow them and control everyone. She wants to like have chaos in the world. And that's why she loves free will, because that's what breeds chaos, is everyone having their own choices to do whatever they want. And that's going to create a bunch of branches. So he comes up, he says that first of all, Loki says, like, "I want you to be my lieutenant." And she's like, "Bro, like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm way before you," which she even says, "If anyone's anyone, you're me. Like, I
Yeah,
came before you. Like, you're a joke, bro." And plus, we see her powers, which are way more extensive than Loki's. So that's going to be a big part. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm thinking she's not the big bad. She's trying to take someone else down, and that's probably what's her face, Slayer, our Slayer, as she puts it on the document to sign her paper. But she's probably in cahoots with Kang, and Kang is probably running everything. There's probably no timekeepers, and she just wants to get rid of this like false prophet, basically, like this order that's happening for no reason besides keeping people in check and making them do what they want to do. And even in the office, Owen Wilson says, like, "Don't you think he could change? Like, he could change." And she's like, "Yeah,
yeah,
only if the timekeepers say it," which is really funny too. Another thing we didn't point out: Owen Wilson's never even met the timekeepers. Like, no one knows who they are except for
that's
her.
right.
So that also leads me to believe, like, it's going to be a Wizard of Oz like guy behind the curtain pulling the strings.
Yeah, and to that point, remind me of her name. I think it's is it Ravona?
Yeah, Ravana or
Ravana?
Ravona? No, Ravona. Yeah,
I
that's what
think
it
it
is.
is Ravona.
Yeah,
And so she's like the head of the TVA, correct?
of sorts. It seems like she is,
Yeah,
but
seems like she is. Yeah, I don't know what you would call her. Like,
she's like a judge, but she's also like the middleman between the
r-
timekeepers.
right. So her character in the comics, from doing research, has been in cahoots with Kang the Conqueror at times. And so it's a possibility because there was that conversation between Mobius and Ravonna, about her having like another helper. I'm forgetting the like
An
analyst,
yeah.
yeah, like a second analyst who she actually prefers.
Mobius was kind of weird about it. I don't know if they have something going on or had
Yeah,
something going on.
I thought that maybe they had a relationship previously, something like that.
Yeah. And
Or
plus the
you know
rings
how
on the table. She's like, you've been here before, right? Like, and had a drink here. So, I don't know, man.
right,
Yeah.
maybe they might have history or something, but yeah, maybe this other analyst could be Kang, possibly.
I think in the future he'll somehow tie back into the TVA, and with his origin and all that. So I think it would make sense for it to. I don't. For some reason, I feel like he's not going to be introduced in Loki, but I do feel like he's going to be. I do think his story is going to revolve a lot around the TVA in the future if they talk about it a bit more.
Well, why don't we give like some final thoughts and maybe some final theories?
Well, I'll hit you with a rogue theory because Ethan just kind of brought it up. We got Renslayer there. What if she was in love with someone named Kang that was an analyst and he took one of the time stones because remember the guy said people use them as paperweights, some of them, and everyone's been speculating like, so did someone take one of these time stones and go back to one of the timelines and mess with everyone? What if Kang went back? And I'm not saying that the timekeepers never existed, but what if he went back, took out the timekeepers, and replaced himself in that position? And he was a lover of hers, and now she's in cahoots with him, and she's like, no one could talk to them. Like, don't even worry about it. They're doing fine. They're just doing their own thing. But it's really this guy King that's like trying to control everyone's narrative because he wants to rule over everything, which is super interesting in my
So,
opinion.
Yeah.
so who is Renslayer? Because I'm sorry if I just didn't catch.
What's her face? The judge. What her other name?
Oh, Ravonna.
Yeah,
Ravonna. Yeah, it's
Oh,
Ravonna.
I see. I see.
our run slayer.
So
Yeah.
I could actually possibly debunk this rogue theory
Go for it.
with one variable.
Hit me up.
Depends on all the details with your theory here, but those stones only work in their specific timeline from their
Mhm.
specific, universe or whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it. You know what I mean? So it would have to be like a very like specific thing for them to, go back to its own timeline. They only work in their own timeline. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm getting at. So Kang
Okay.
took them back to a certain timeline where he was like to like the beginning of time almost when he
So
took
that
out
they so that they could work where they would work.
so that they could work. Yeah. And that doesn't even even have to be. He honestly could just take out the TVA. He could take out the timekeepers and been like, "Yo, let's do this," because she knows all about them, where they are, who they are. She talks to them supposedly, right? So I'm thinking there probably was a mishap with that, or just straight up like he's always been behind the curtain for the TVA. But my biggest thing that I really want to dive into is what's going to happen next episode, and we didn't really touch on it. But so she drops the time bombs off, right? So what's happening next, and why did she do that? For me, it's she did this time stuff to get everyone out of the TVA. So now the TVA has no one manning the fort, basically. Like it's a distraction. And when I went back to the commercials, you've seen her, Lady Loki, inside of the TVA fighting certain people. And you also have seen her, like, I'm thinking the girl said, I told her where to find them and how to find them. I'm thinking that she basically spilled the beans on this is how you get to the secret classified documents to find out how to get to these people. She didn't tell them exactly like where they are because who knows? That girl has no idea where they are. Like that's so classified. But she told her like this is where you find the documents to find these people. So spilled the beans, explosion. Now everyone leaves, and it's just going to be because when you see it, Loki's actually in his variant jacket and he's walking through the TVA with his daggers, and there's dead bodies on the floor. I'm thinking she does it as a distraction, and she's getting everyone out. She's going to find the documents.
And where was that scene? I'm sorry.
The commercials.
Commercial. Okay.
Yeah, trailer. If you actually go on just Disney
Mhm.
Plus and look at the trailer, there's
Yeah, I saw that on Instagram earlier, like right before I watched
remember
the
that
episode.
now.
because he's walking through with his daggers, his variant jacket's on, and he passes a door that has orange and white writing on it that says 36 on it.
But this isn't in episode 2. It's in the commercial,
Well,
right?
no, I was thinking of, but there was another scene in that commercial where she was like dragging someone into the TVA. I thought, like, it was weird, but it was like someone was being dragged through a portal like into the TVA, and it was in like some clip I saw or something. But
it might have been a splicing between episode 2 and the beginning when she drags the girl through the portal. Is that maybe?
No, it was just her in the TVA. Like, it was weird. I don't know what it was. But
okay, yeah,
I definitely think they're going to end up there probably by next episode, because I think stuff is going to escalate real quickly.
Yeah, it's 100% a distraction. She's getting in there, man.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you guys think the TVA is?
See, that's the one thing that that's the one thing I was going to talk about is the TVA seems so weird because the idea of it is so cosmic, but it works like so like scientifically, you know, like it just seems like one big place where everything's like, you know, working. Like, it seems so technological, but the idea of it is such like a cosmic thing, like you're dealing with time. So like that's why I could see it just being a huge scam. But everything I've heard, I think it's just like in between like the nine realms, right?
Never thought too much about it actually. But yeah, I like what Ethan said. That makes a lot of sense. Plus, the realms even got brought up too in one of the episodes, and then we had talked about last week about how Doctor Strange most likely knows about the timekeepers after being like promoted to the Supreme, so he probably knows about them a little bit, and that would kind of tie them into some of the Doctor Strange lore. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
TVA, where are they? I'm thinking they might be in the quantum realm. Okay, we've seen the city in the background in Ant-Man. Okay. What is that? First of all. Second of all, Ant-Man says time works differently in the quantum realm. And then we had Mobius in the elevator saying the same exact thing. He says, I forget the exact quote, but it's basically, time works
different here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking they might be in the quantum realm in some area in the quantum realm somewhere where that's where Quantumania comes from with Kang.
Yeah.
Because he might be in the quantum realm, know about it, know how to work it out, and that might be like the manipulation he's putting on everyone. Or it's this false front that like they're in some time between time, which is basically the quantum realm.
Yeah, man, I could definitely see, and it makes sense how they can literally just teleport like practically anywhere at any time. Like, for them to do their jobs, it would make sense for them to be in the quantum realm.
Totally agree with that. Why don't we go ahead, if you guys don't mind, we will close things out by rating the episode. I was gonna give it a solid 4.5 out of 5. I think the only thing
Out of 10. Just kidding.
I think the only thing that would have made it just a little bit better for me is maybe just a little bit more action, but don't really have much complaints. I thought it was really, really good. What about you, Jake?
So for me, yeah, I'm gonna give it a solid 5 out of 5 or a 10 out of 5 because I love how they're ramping everything up, dude. Like it's getting me all jonesed up. The only issue I have with this episode is they mentioned jet skiing with Owen Wilson, Mobius, and I'm telling you, if they don't capitalize on that and have the timeline break so that Mobius can ride a jet ski and it won't affect anyone,
They will.
riding off into the sunset, man.
They'll be chasing Loki on a jet ski.
Or maybe Loki will be holding on to him. I don't know. Either way, man, I don't care. I need to see Mobius on a jet ski. Or yeah. So that's how I feel. 10 out of 10.
Nice. What about you, Ethan?
Yeah, I give it like a 5, 10 out of 10. Like, I think it's just real solid. Like, I'm okay with the pacing. Like, I like that was kind of like a detective like deal, with the whole episode, and uh, I think it just works really well. I think it's very realistic for such like a big deal in this universe, and I think they're doing a really good job at making everything like make sense when it's such complicated stuff. So yeah, I really love the show so far, and can't wait for next week. We're almost like halfway through it already, so it's kind of weird to think about.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Well, I thought this was a great review, guys. I think we broke down quite a lot and, really delve into the big takeaways of the episode. So, looking forward to next week. Jake, thanks a lot for being on the review for Loki.
Of course. My pleasure. Love being here.
Yeah, we love having you. Appreciate it, man. And we appreciate our viewers, our listeners out there. Again, continue to support us by hitting that subscribe button, follow button, leaving us a like, leaving us a comment, joining the conversation, letting us know how you guys enjoyed this episode 2 of Loki. We want to hear from you. Again, you can also check us out on the audio platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcast. Also, we have our special show, Starfighter Gaming, that pops up here and there, some special pre recorded episodes, as well as we do some live streaming. So you can join us, hang out while we play some games, talk about our love and enjoyment when it comes to certain video games, stuff like that. Jake and I did one last night. We played some Knockout City for a long time. That's on the channel you can check out. Ethan and I did a Smash Bros video to kind of like kickstart Starfighter Gaming, as well as our other like introduction to, our live streaming games was also the episode that I did with Nick Brabants, where we played Dragon Ball Fighters, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah, guys, stay tuned for more of that. Again, we are going to be including more of our audience and friends, especially doing some party games soon. So look out for that. And this Friday, we are doing our episode 3. It is our third edition of Trivia Night, our game night here. So we're going to be playing some more nerdy trivia. Jake is looking for some redemption. He needs that redemption arc in his story and his timeline. So he's going to be back for that. I am going to be competing for the first time. So in this trivia, Ethan's going to be hosting it alongside one of our friends, and that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great time. Those are some of our best episodes by far that we know that you guys have told us that you guys really enjoy those trivia nights. So
the questions are real good. I've seen some of the questions, and
yes,
they're real solid.
I'm excited. I'm not making any of the questions this time, obviously, because I get to compete. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing these questions and just having a lot of fun with everyone. So stay tuned for that coming up this Friday at 6 p.m. and so many other shows coming your way soon. We're signing out here at the Starfighter Podcast. We will see you soon.